what we see as a mechanism for change in mineral exploration and mining is these international reporting codes, and what can be done there to generally improve what we now know as ESG performance, environmental, social and governance performance, from companies on the ground undertaking these activities.
In fact, the clue's in the name really. It stands for innovative, non-invasive and fully acceptable exploration technologies. From the social aspects of the project, so we've sort of focused in and we've pulled together sort of a vision for what is required for mining to be acceptable within a European context. And where the reporting codes sit is sort of really within that finance and industry sort of sector, sort of what is done, what is their role actually in sort of, I suppose, opening sort of gateways to finance.
A general question for everyone is, are you happy with figure 1, or do you think figure 1 should somehow indicate that you have to look at modified factors and in particular ESG before even reporting exploration results?
A well-needed guidance on governance is really the focus. You have to have the governance to hit the environmental and social on the head. So we're going back to principles, and we're going to be pointing to all the great guidance that's already out there on environmental and social practices.
Our environmental knowledge has grown considerably. Technical knowledge is really quite good. There's certainly room for improvement. Social is the challenge.
Changing legislation in Australia between perhaps states and the federal government. They're not always aligned, but there is a tendency for reporting codes to become part of formalised processes. The community consent process has changed remarkably over the last 10 years.
At some point, it will be necessary for people to sign off on ESG factors. In fact, it's already necessary for project financing in major projects that have equator bank financing.
The ESG aspect within or inside the reporting code, it's something that needs to be, discussed very deeply and intensively.
CAMERA is the China Association of Mineral Resources Appraisers, and understand it's still working towards joining CRISCO, and will likely get a CRISCO template compliant code launched around the half two of this year, 2021. In the current the CAMERA code, there are very limited terms actually clearly addressed for ESG, and there's basically no G.
I'm not talking about international things. International things, we all are talking about international good practices. But the people in here, or maybe everybody, needs the practice in their local area.
We have our SAMES guideline, which, as John mentioned, sort of became officially part of the SAM codes suite of codes from 2017. Development of it started in about 2013, 2014.
We're also looking at the importance of providing guidance for other modifying factors, and specifically the integrated risk management, something that we also feel is lacking in many of the codes.
Was that ESG disclosure is still voluntary in the US for all industries other than mining, but there's a lot more pressure to have these types of disclosures from institutional investors. So I'm expecting to see that as more of these technical report summaries come out into the public domain, that you'll see pressure coming on to other aspects within the United States to start conforming and bring themselves in line with what's required of the mining companies.
The question always arises whether CRISCO is a leader or a follower. In this particular case, it has to be a follower, and it takes the best from each individual code as they are revised.
BlackRock are ingraining ESG more and more and more into their processes of investment.
Speaking as a geologist and as an economic geologist, understanding how ESG translates into modifying factors for mineral resources and reserves is going to be a really interesting area of development.
Acknowledgement, the earlier you start pulling ESG into this in a meaningful way, the better.
The social issues, understanding the social context, having effective stakeholder engagement from the outset should be seen as an investment rather than a cost.
2021 is actually an incredibly exciting year. What we've heard just now is that almost everybody is updating their code or standard or guidance. Also, as we can see from the international expectations perspective, there is that increasing need and desire to go from the greenwashing, as one of our attendees has just said, into true impact and action.